Good morning, and welcome to Diversity MBA's monthly DEI Best Practice Members Conversation. I'm Larissa Williams, the Vice President of DEI Center of Excellence for Diversity MBA. We are so excited to once again continue our series on the topic of being prepared for what's next. These conversations, as you know, are here to provide insights and awareness of best practices, and in some cases, next practices for supporting an organization's DE&I strategies. In today's conversation, we will hear from Colgate-Palmolive about how they are leveraging employee programs for keeping their employees engaged. We will learn about their best practices and why employee engagement matters. But before we get started with the conversation, I want to share some recent stats that's related to this topic with you. I was reading a recent Gallup poll, and it stated that quiet quitters make up at least 50%, if not more, of the US workforce. This trend of quietly quitting has spread virally on social media with the idea or dismal state of US workplaces that millions of people are not going above and beyond at work and are only doing the bare minimum. Can you believe that? We also know that after the pandemic, employee engagement took a step backwards, with the proportion of actively disengaged employees increasing to 18%, which is, according to this article, is considered the lowest in almost a decade. But we know as leaders that some jobs require some level of extra effort to collaborate. Not some jobs, but all jobs, right? Require some level of extra effort to collaborate with coworkers in meeting our customers' needs. So some would say that as leaders, keeping our employees engaged is an important task, if not the most important role of responsibility as leaders. With this recent new trend, we are at the mercy of having to figure this out sooner than later for some of us. But in fact, I don't know about you, but that's a lot of employees, over 50%, and they're thinking that it's probably more that are quietly quitting. And we know that as a result of the pandemic and the great resignation, a lot of us are desperately trying to redo our talent management strategies to address the talent drain on our pipelines as a result of the great resignation. But today, in today's conversation, we are here to have, as I say, a kitchen table conversation with David Burke, Senior Manager, Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Employee Programs for Colgate-Palmolive, who is here with us. And I have to say that we have this great opportunity to hear insights and leadership tips from Diversity MBA's number two, number two company on our 50 Out Front company for best places for diverse managers and women to work. So let's get started. Welcome, David.
Good morning. How are you today? Thank you for
Oh,
having me. I appreciate it. So happy to be here.
Yes, we are so fortunate to have our number two company to do this with us. So I have to say congratulations on landing that number two spot, because that is not an easy feat. So
Yes,
congratulations.
thank you so much. We're so excited about that, and we're thrilled, and we appreciate your partnership.
Yes, and vice versa. We appreciate you as well. So we like to start every conversation focused on a topic that's very important to us, which is wellness. We know that doing this work has its challenges, but it's so important that we as diversity practitioners check on one another just to see how we're doing, right? So
Yes.
David, that's my first question. Tell us about a little bit about you and how you keep yourself well.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much. So on the personal side, Larissa, and first of all, let me say that statistic that you quoted from Gallup is alarming, 50%, and you say it's even more. So I think this conversation today is really, really important. So as you said, wellness, emotional wellness and well-being is so critically important. So on my personal side, I'm a dad. and I have two kids. They're older. One is going to be a senior in college, and one has graduated 4 years ago and is out on their own. I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother, and I really see myself as a soccer dad. My kids played soccer all throughout their upbringing, and my son actually made it to D1 soccer, which was really exciting.
Nice,
Um, yeah,
nice.
so I'm really excited about that. On the business side, as you
Mhm.
said, I'm the senior manager of diversity, equity, inclusion at Colgate, and that's really wearing two hats. One is a DE&I hat, and then which everyone knows, and the other one is employee recognition. So really, what does that mean? It's the recognition programs like length of service, retirement programs, service awards. We do backup childcare and tuition assistance program. My pronouns are he, him, his. I have been in DE&I for the last 5.5 years, and what a great time in the history of DE&I to be in this space. Um, Overall, I've been in HR, believe it or not, for 35 years. And I've worked
Wow.
for PepsiCo. I've worked for Altria, which was formerly known as Philip Morris, and now I'm here at Colgate for the past 15 years. I just celebrated my 15-year service anniversary, and
Congratulations.
thank you. And I've worked in all areas of HR really over this 35 career, in compensation and benefits and talent acquisition, expatriate management, HRS, et cetera. So I feel that I'm very, very, well-rounded and have been exposed to almost all of the areas in human resources. But to
Mhm.
your point, it's really important to keep yourself physically and emotionally well. And I really had to figure out how to do that for myself. And the way that I do it for myself is through yoga. So I do yoga twice a week. And I also try, I don't always execute it, but I try to walk 3 miles a day. So
Oh my
that,
goodness, that's a lot.
yeah,
That's good. That's good.
that's my and that's outside of not doing steps like a lot of people do on their iWatches, but it's outside of that. It's trying to do a 3 mile walk every evening or
That's
every day.
good. Walking is good for your heart and your lungs.
Yes, yes, and it helps to decompress,
Mhm.
re-energize, right, and step away from the day and think about how the day went, and the wins and where the opportunities are.
Wonderful. And how is it walking in New York? Because I think you all are experiencing a heat wave too.
Yeah,
Is
well,
it
we've
pretty
had a
hot
heat
there?
wave. Yes, we've had a heat wave, but we've also had a lot of smoke from the Canadian fires.
Oh,
So
yeah.
our days are very hot and humid, and what they tell you is to stay inside. So and not do a
Mhm.
lot of external exertion. So you
Right.
go inside and do it on the treadmill or whatever the case may be. But I do like to walk outside.
That's great. That's great. Walking is so good for you. And I want to say this, congratulations to you personally, because you recently got a promotion.
Thank you. I have a new title change as of July 1, which was really exciting. So thank you so much.
Nice, very nice. So let's get into our conversation. Here's the first question. So, what does employee engagement mean to Colgate Palmolive, and what employee programs have created the biggest impact?
Okay. So employee engagement to Colgate, I mean, it means everything. I mean, I can't say it another way. If employees are not engaged, if they don't feel that they belong and are part of the company is not going to succeed. And as you mentioned earlier about quiet quitting, if people are engaged, if our employees are engaged, they're not going to be sitting there doing quiet quitting, right?
Mhm.
So we have engagement built into all facets of our company, and I'm really happy to say that it starts at the top with our company's overall 2025 strategic framework. As part of that framework, we actually say that we want people and a culture that champions diversity, promotes inclusion, drives focus, empowerment, experimentation, and digitization. And then, Larissa, we even take it further. We then have our DE&I strategy. And
Mhm.
in our DE&I strategy, we have 4 pillars. We have people, we have community, we have supplier diversity, and communication. And really, in people, we really focus on engagement and driving engagement.
Mhm.
And also, excitingly, we also just launched our new values. So at Colgate, we have 3 values, and it's that we're caring, we're inclusive, and we're courageous. And I'm really happy that inclusive is now one of our values. It shows you that DE&I is so important in the foundation of everything we do. So really your question is, what's the big impact, right? So I
Mhm.
guess selfishly, since I have some employee programs, I'll talk about those first. But I just want you to know that overall, we really focus on the employee experience overall, right? So I'll tell you about a few programs that help to contribute to our overall employee experience. The first thing is we have employee resource groups. So at
Mhm.
Colgate-Palmolive, we have 12 employee resource groups, and they are really the bedrock of what helps us drive belonging and inclusion. At Colgate, we want everybody to feel that they belong. And through our ERGs, we feel that we have a great level of engagement. We also have hybrid work now, and that is also a great tool for engagement. Employees love the flexibility to be able to work from different locations. We do require employees to be in the office 3 days a week, and then they have 2 days of flexibility, but it gives them that great flexibility and balance. And that's also a really great engagement tool. And
Mhm.
then when I told you earlier that I have employee programs, I have the tuition assistance program. That's a great driver for employee engagement. We pay for associates, bachelor's, master's, and PhDs. So employees can upskill and increase their level of education for personal satisfaction as well as for professional development. And then we have a backup assistance care program, which is really fantastic. So we provide backup care for children when the family's backup care breaks down. We also provide elder care
Mhm.
for when the current plan that the family has breaks down. And really cool, since we do own Hills Pet Nutrition, we also provide pet care. So we allow our employees to have, pet walkers and dog sitters and all those types of things. We provide virtual tutoring. We provide for camps. So these are all tools that we use
Mhm.
to promote employee engagement. And selfishly, these are a lot of programs that come out of my area. So I wanted to really spend some time and highlight those.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's wonderful. And so, we know that oftentimes when, who has the accountability or the responsibility, I mentioned this in my opening, the
Mhm.
manager plays a big role in ensuring that their employees are engaged. Often some people will even say that, people don't quit jobs, they quit the employee, the worker, their boss who they were working for.
Absolutely.
So, with that being said, can you give some insight as to what role, if any, do managers play in supporting these programs?
Right. So managers, as you say, are the most critical component. And I would say it's really the mid-level managers, right? So from the C-suite, we have fantastic support. And from the lower levels of the organization, we have great support. Is we really focus on the mid-level managers, right? And as part of their performance evaluations, diversity, equity, inclusion, and driving employee engagement is part of their annual performance reviews. So they are really great drivers in helping us to drive our programs, drive DE&I, and to drive employee engagement. It's critical that they are all on board and helping
Mhm.
us to support the effort. So we rely very heavily on our managers because, as you said, people quit managers, they don't quit companies. So that we really use them as a strong tool to help deliver our
Mhm.
messages. And as I said, it's tied into their compensation.
And so that's great, David. And with these calls that we have, a lot of our diversity practitioners or HR practitioners who may listen to this podcast
Hmm.
will always have a question around how. How did you do that? How did you get them? So when you say that your mid-level managers are held accountable because it's in their annual performance review,
Hmm.
how does it show up in their annual performance? What's the KPI for that?
Okay, sure. So all right. And it's mid-level managers, but it's really all people
Okay.
at Colgate, right,
Okay.
have a DE&I goal, right? So it's part of their annual performance review, and they have 10% of their annual performance objectives are to drive diversity, equity, inclusion, and employee engagement at our organization. So it's broad, right?
Mhm.
And they have the opportunity to be able to write in how they have helped to accomplish that goal. So it's not very specific, right? It's a general goal, but they have the option to be able to say how they were able to achieve that. And that might be, they may be a sponsor for one of our ERGs. They may be a panelist on a board or activity. They may have, at their staff meetings, they may always have a component of DE&I and talk about the different employee programs that we have. So, we do give them ideas and suggestions, and then we allow them to, reach the goal in what's best for them and their department.
And that 10%, is that also tied to their compensation or bonuses?
It is, but not at all levels of the organization. So for
Okay.
the what we call the executives and above, yes.
Okay.
So anyone who's a people manager, who manages people, we have a lot of managers in our company who don't manage people, but they have a manager title. So that's where we make the cut for people managers and above. But everybody has a DE&I goal. It's only tied to the compensation of those who are considered our executive managers and above.
Okay. So my next question, you touched on it a little bit. You started with your employee programs. Can you share a few more examples of Colgate's best practices that have fostered DE&I within the workplace for you?
Sure. So we have a lot of different programs. So for example, we have an employee referral program, and we're really leaning in hard on that right now because we feel that Colgate employees can give us access to great candidates that they may know. So we've beefed up our employee referral program, and we're providing a $2,000 award to those folks who bring in
Nice.
employees into our companies, which is fantastic. However, on the employee referral program side for our ERGs, if somebody from one of our ERG brings in a candidate, specifically a person of color or a woman or a veteran or a person with disabilities, they would be eligible for a $3,000 bonus for bringing somebody into the company. So we're really leaning heavy on our employee referral program, and we're leaning heavy on our ERGs to assist us in that process as well.
So with the referral bonus, should an ERG find a candidate who was ultimately hired and they get that $3,000 bonus, does it go to the ERG directly, or does it
No, it
go?
goes directly to the employee who nominated the individual.
Oh, and should that employee be a part of an ERG, then that ERG gets a recognition for that hire?
Not at the moment,
Oh,
but I
okay.
think that's a great idea. So the
Okay.
employee gets the recognition, but
Okay.
the ERG doesn't per se. But I'm going to take that one back. I think that's a
Okay.
great idea. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. That's why we have these conversations.
Yes.
But getting into the employer referral, I do want to know, as I mentioned in my opening, a lot of companies were impacted by the great resignation as a result of the pandemic.
Hmm.
And so a lot of companies are now really struggling to really fill, as I say, the drain within their pipelines with more diversity, because their pipelines, their leadership pipelines were impacted, unfortunately.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I'm curious to know, what's your current recruitment strategy? And did it change as a result of the pandemic, or what are some things you all are doing to identify and attract more diversity to Colgate?
Sure. So that's an amazing question, right? Because the pandemic changed all of our lives, and and to me, the most critical moment was, so it was the pandemic, but during the pandemic, of course, was the social justice movement, right? So after the murder of George Floyd in May, there was so I don't think our strategy has changed, right? However, it has significantly or greatly accelerated, right? So, which is fantastic, right? We have so much more, so much more influence now in DE&I, and we have so much more engagement and participation, and everybody's involved, and everybody wants to be a part of it. With that being said, we do want our company to look like the communities where we live and where we work,
Mm.
And at Colgate, we use the Bureau of Labor Statistics to make sure to establish our goals, to make sure that we have the appropriate representation for women, for Blacks and African Americans, for Latins, Asians, persons with disabilities, and veterans. So we have, we're laser focused on all of these groups, and we have set, our goals to ensure that we mirror, like I said, the communities where we live and work. And that's what we march towards every day, trying to improve those, and we do that through developing our pipeline, through employee referral programs, for our ERGs going out to campus and helping us in the recruitment process. We do that through partnering with partners like yourself, right? So like with Diversity MBA and with the other external diversity and disability inclusion partners that we have. So I don't think overall our strategy really changed. We were always going in that direction, but it gave us the influence, it gave us the recognition, it gave us the eyeballs, right? That we really needed to be able to go in there and make a difference in a much quicker pace.
Great, great. Now you say that you, as a result of your strategies, which you accelerated, that you now have more influence and engagement from, I guess, the organization and maybe those organizations that you partner with and your employees. And so I'm just curious, when it comes to your hiring managers, is there an expectation that is extended to them to ensure that their finalists or their candidates, that they have a diversity slate of candidates for their openings? How
Absolutely.
far does that goal trickle down?
So
The diversity goal.
yeah, so the amazing thing is it starts from the CEO and it goes all the way down throughout the company, right? So we do require that we have diverse slates. At the end of the day, we're required to pick the most qualified person for the job, right? But we do want to ensure that there is a diverse candidate slate, and that includes women, people, and people of color. So we ensure that is a requirement when you're doing your interviewing process. So we work with our external partners that we use, and they're trained by our company on the policies, procedures, and processes that we want them to follow. And then we also have training for our managers as well. But yes, to answer your question, yes, for each position, we have to have a diverse slate of candidates presented. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we can pick the most qualified person for the position.
I'm curious, when you say you train your managers on, is it diversity recruiting? What are they actually trained on?
We have an interview process, right? That we are required to follow, and it's automated. So we just want to make sure that they understand the process, that they understand that they're responsible for having a diverse slate of candidates, that they're responsible for, as I said, picking the most qualified candidates. So it's a quick tutorial to ensure that they're following the process correctly and understand the importance.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, because you want to make certain that you have structure and that everybody's doing the same thing.
Yes.
And not running their own show. What about your recruiters? Are the recruiters also trained on like diversity recruitment? And you mentioned that your external partners that are there to help you find a diverse slate, that they are trained. Do you also train your recruiters on diversity recruiting?
We do. So we have internal recruiters, from our company. Of course, naturally they're trained. And then any of the external recruiters that we use in partnerships, they have to go through the training as well, in order to be, qualified to work with the organization.
That's really good, because, one of the trainings that we offer here at Diversity MBA, we have a boot camp on diversity recruiting. And we have found that, most of your biases, whether they're unconscious or conscious, sometimes happens at that front line. And who, has a visibility into that front line, oftentimes it's recruiters, because we know that, if you've ever done recruiting, you have so many resumes to review, right? And so you make your decision and choices on who you want to move forward in what, 10, 15 seconds?
Right.
It's real
Yeah,
quick. It's less
absolutely.
than a minute.
Absolutely.
And so we found that it's very important that recruiters are also trained on,
Absolutely.
diversity, and making certain that they are holding themselves accountable and that they don't have any blind spots, right, as they are recruiting, because we have to be careful for recruiting for fit, right? Right.
Absolutely.
So because
Yes.
we can easily fall short of that. So that's really good that you all have training.
Yeah,
That's very important. That is, not only for the managers, but also for the recruiters and your external partners as well. That
absolutely.
is really a best practice. That's really good. So
Yes, it's
kudos to you. That's why you guys are
thank
number
you.
two.
Thank you. Yes, and it is very important because most people naturally pick people who seem like themselves.
Hmm.
That's,
Hmm.
so we want to make
Yep.
sure that that bias is taken out of the process. So we do
Mhm.
have the detailed trainings.
So you mentioned employee resource groups, and that you all have 12 of them. So that's
Yes.
awesome. But we know that our employee resource groups are a critical spoke in the wheel of DE&I strategies, that they play a critical part, especially with helping us amplify our employee engagement efforts, which is what we're talking about today. So
Hmm.
that being said, if you could go into, you talked about it a little bit, if you can talk a little bit more about how you hold your employee resource groups accountable for contributing to business goals, or in this case, your DE&I strategy, and how can we ensure that our employee resource groups are an effective resource for helping us execute on our strategies?
Absolutely. So that's a great point. As I said, we do have 12 employee resource groups, and then we have different chapters of those, Larissa. So overall, we have about, in the US, we have about 24 different chapters. So when I say that, so we have the Colgate Women's Network, but we have a chapter in New York City, we have a chapter in Piscataway, New Jersey, and then we have a chapter in Topeka, Kansas. So we have 12 distinct groups and then 24 chapters across the US. We bring our employee resource groups together on a quarterly basis. We call it the Inclusive Leadership Council meeting for ERGs. We bring them together every quarter, and we want to talk to them, and we want to share best practices with them that we find from groups like Diversity MBA or other diversity disability partners that we work with.
Mhm.
We may have a senior leader present to them on the importance for their function. So we do bring them together. We share best practices. We talk about the strategy every single time, right? Every single time. It's always about, what is our company's purpose? Reimagining a healthy future for all people, their pets, and our planet. And we talk to them about the company's strategy, strategic framework. We talk to them about the DE&I strategy. We talk to them about our values. But with that being said, there's so many ways that our ERGs can help us with engagement and help us to drive our business goals. So for example, just one simple thing is our ERGs are developing people. There's a lot of professional development seminars that they offer. So for example, our Black Leadership Network had a program last week, and it was understanding the P&L. So they had someone from finance present, and they wanted everyone to understand the terminology for profit and loss and all the terms in finance, and that was great. We also had Ernst and Young come in, EY come in, and talk about financial wellness. So there's a lot of different things about how we can develop our people professionally and personally. They get great exposure in these ERGs to senior management because
Mhm.
a member of our C-suite is an executive sponsor of their ERG. And so they are very much connected. Our ERG leads get the most exposure to the senior management, but they
Mhm.
do come and they do show up at all our events.
Mhm.
ERG leads and ERG members get leadership skills through this. They also help us support our talent acquisition. As I said, they help us do recruitment at colleges and universities. They go out to our historically Black colleges and universities with us. And
Mhm.
this is really cool. And we didn't talk about this yet, but as part of our talent acquisition strategy,
Mhm.
we've implemented candidate buddies or ERG candidate buddies. So what does that mean? When we have a person who is thinking about joining our company, we let them talk to somebody from our ERG. So it's important, and we let them talk, and they have a 30-minute conversation, and the candidate can ask them any questions that they want. And we
Mhm,
typically do try to pair up, race and gender, and it's a great opportunity. So this is something new that we've just recently implemented over the last, I'd say 2 months. So
mhm,
don't have any kind of feedback yet on how it's going, but I'm very
mhm,
interested to see. When employees are joining our organization, they want
mhm.
to see and talk to and people who are like themselves, right?
Yes.
So we want to make sure that as part of that candidate experience, that does happen. And really great, our ERGs have helped us develop television commercials
Mhm,
and print ads, which is fantastic. So they come in as focus groups, and they give a lot of great feedback on um, what what's missing in the ad, how it
mhm,
would be received by a particular community. The most recent one, you may have seen it, is a child getting onto a school bus, and he is blind. So that's the most recent
mhm.
one that our ERGs have done. And lastly, they help us with product innovation. So specifically, our disabilities ERG has helped our technology center with developing a toothbrush that people with disabilities could hold much more easily. And we've
Mhm,
also developed an app for
mhm.
people with autism on how to brush their teeth.
Oh, nice,
So
nice.
it's fantastic. So our ERGs are playing key roles in all of these areas.
That's awesome. So you mentioned, I like, this is awesome that, it is clearly, I clearly see that you're getting your ERGs involved in helping to move the needle with engagement and also DE&I, which is awesome, and for the business.
Hmm.
You mentioned, I like this. You said the ERG candidate buddies, where
Hmm.
you buddy up an ERG person with a candidate. I'm assuming it's a finalist candidate
Yes.
that you're interested in. So,
Hmm.
do you train your ERG leaders on, how to, because they're not necessarily human resources. So, do you
Correct.
train them on kind of like the do's and the don'ts, what area you need to stay away from with the conversation? What are the parameters,
Right.
or are
So
there any?
yes. So it's right now it's loose, I must
Okay.
admit, but our talent acquisition team has put together a one pager
Okay.
of guidelines, on how this should be
Okay.
accomplished. So we do need to. This
Mhm.
is relatively new. It's something we thought we had to add, but as it
Mhm.
continues to evolve, right, we'll continue to refine and make it better. But that's a great point. We need to ensure that the right messaging is getting out there, the right conversations are being had.
Yes, yes. Okay, so we're at my last question. Oh, how
Okay.
time flies when you're having a great kitchen table
It
conversation.
sure does.
As diversity leaders, what do we need to do to continue to show our value within organizations? What's one thing diversity practitioners should do to prepare for what's coming next?
Ah, that's a great question. So I
Mhm,
really have two thoughts, Larissa, right? So the first one is that the one thing is all diversity practitioners need to understand all about human capital, right? So
mhm,
there's so many different generations right now, and they want so many different things. So Gen Z wants one thing, and Gen X, and now we have the
mhm,
baby boomers at one end of the spectrum, and then we have the alpha at the newer end of this. So we really need to understand human capital and what the different generations want and are looking for and what they bring to the business. And we really need to understand the businesses as well.
mhm,
We want our employees to have a human centric approach to employees and their well-being versus, this is just a person and they're getting the job done. So it's a human centric approach. The one thing though that I think that's coming next is really it's AI, or artificial intelligence. So
yeah.
as DE&I practitioners, HR practitioners, we need to understand everything you see now is about chat GPT and all the other things, how it can help in talent acquisition. So it could be a blessing and a curse. So we really need to
Mhm,
understand how it can best support us and what the pitfalls can be from AI. It has a
Yeah.
great potential to improve us, yet there are still many unknowns and considerable risks. So I think that's the biggest really watch out that we really need to pay attention to and understand.
Yeah, I agree with you. And our conference, hopefully Colgate will be there as our #2 company. I know
Absolutely.
you will be there as, next month, well, actually in September,
Mhm.
September 27th and 28th, live in Chicago. And one of the topics that we are going to have as part of our discussion is artificial intelligence. Because, what does it all mean? Because it has, really taken over, especially in academia with
Mhm.
schools and students being able to leverage artificial intelligence to really help them with their lessons. But we're hoping that they're not cheating.
Right.
so
Right.
so yeah, so I really love that. So, and then human capital. Yeah, we have all these generations in the workplace, and we have to make certain that when it comes to employee programs and employee engagement, that we're meeting their needs. They're unique, very unique and diverse
Yes.
needs of each one of those generations, because it is can be quite very different. So this has been awesome, David. Thank you
Yes,
so
it's been a
much.
delight.
Yes, yes. We really appreciate you taking out the time today to talk with us. And congratulations again to Colgate landing the #2 spot on our list. As
Thank
we
you.
know, those of us that's been doing chasing list, best places to work list, it's hard to get to #2.
Sure is.
Sometimes even the
Sure
top
is.
10. So congratulations. And we are so looking forward to seeing you at our conference in September. So thank you so much for taking the time out to have this vital conversation today on employee engagement.
Thank you, Larissa. Thank you so much for having me. And I can't tell you how much Colgate Palmolive appreciates and values the partnership with Diversity MBA. And we look forward to seeing you at the conference, and we look forward to continuing our partnership over the years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.